Unity of the Huachucas presents Jon Messenger.
Perseverance.
I'll start you off with just something that touched me recently. It was on the line. Start out with a poem by Douglas Malloch called Good Timber. The tree that never had to fight for sun and sky and air and light, but stood out in the open plain and always got its share of rain, never became a forest king, but lived and died a scrubby thing. The man who never had to toil to gain and farm his patch of soil, who never had to win his share of sun and sky and light and air, never became a manly man, but lived and died as he began. Good timber does not grow with ease. The stronger wind, the stronger trees. The further sky, the greater length. The more the storm, the more the strength. By sun and cold, by rain and snow, in trees and men, good timbers grow. Where thickest lies the forest growth, we find the patriarchs of both, and they hold counsel with the stars, whose broken branches show the scars of many winds and much of strife. This is the common law of life. I first encountered anything about the 91st Psalm as a result of reading a pamphlet by Emmett Fox. We're at Unity in the Grove in Fort Lauderdale, in Lakeland, Florida. There were a whole bunch of Emmett Fox pamphlets and books. He wrote a pamphlet on this particular psalm. Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. Surely He will save you from the fowler's snare and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. You will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the plague that destroys at midday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will only observe with your eyes and see the punishment of the wicked. If you say, the Lord is my refuge, and you make the Most High your dwelling, no harm will overtake you. No disaster will come near your tent. For He will command His angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. They will lift you up in their hands so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. You will tread on the lion and the cobra. You will trample the great lion and the serpent. Because He loves me, says the Lord, I will rescue him. I will protect him, for he acknowledges my name. He will call on me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver and honor him. With long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. Now, if I can remember that every day, what in the devil do I have to be concerned about? But I don't remember it every day. I've been trained. The first words I wanted to speak on this subject this morning is, I'm having a hard time. I'm having a hard time. I've got decades of schooling and ground in patriotism and love of country. And I believe wholeheartedly in what Winston Churchill once said, that democracy is the worst form of government except compared to all the rest. What would Jesus do? It's written for us, what would Jesus do? And he would encourage us to say that the light of God surrounds me, that the love of God enfolds me. And it gives me all I need. And I sat contemplating while we were going over that all my needs are met. My wants, however, occasionally are outside the border of what's going to happen today. And there have been times when I want something or you want something and you finally get it and find out you didn't want it so much after all. It turned out to be a lot more trouble than it was worth. But so we agreed that there is adversity to be dealt with, and adversity to endure, and adversity to overcome, and that faith is the key. Which entails me really staying in the now, and I've talked about it, and you talk about it, and we read about it, and I have been in a place where I absorbed my morning coffee and tobacco and engage in the absorption of all the negativity that swirls around us. And I want God to answer me when I say, how can you let this happen again? And God says, it's not me doing it. It's you. It's people. I contribute to the illness by giving it life within me. I need to stick to it. I need to put on my armor in the morning and find something pleasant to do instead of absorbing information that I mistakenly believe that I need to be thoroughly informed, thoroughly vested, do some research to go along with what's just been pushed in my face, because I'd like to know what I was talking about when I talk to somebody. When my kids were learning to read, and you may have encountered this in your life or with somebody else that you know, you've got them reading aloud, and I don't even know whether they read aloud in school anymore. But when you're reading aloud, sometimes you find out that now there's something coming out of your mouth that's not on the page, as you're reading the words the way you'd like to hear them. And when my middle son especially was learning to read, this happened to him a lot. He'd start off a sentence the way it was on the page and finish it the way he thought it ought to sound. And he's having difficulty with his reading. And I said, read what's on the page. Take your time and read what's on the page. And what's on the page says what it says. And the words mean what they mean. And if you're not sure what the words mean, you go to the dictionary. My father would never tell me a definition. He just showed me how to use a dictionary. And when I said, what's that word mean? He'd say, look it up. And I wasn't going to get a definition unless I went to look it up. Getting a little education under your belt can give you a dose of overconfidence. You're pretty sure you know what you're talking about. And so you go try to talk about it to somebody who doesn't hold your point of view at all. And it's painfully obvious to the individual that is sure that they're informed that the individual that they're trying to communicate with has been tamped full of manure. And I'm running into that all kinds of places. If I choose to do something repugnant in order to change the activities of people or to fill my pockets, then I can expect no blessing for that. And I know in my heart that if I patiently wait with the armor of God on me and attempt with all my being to live in the now, that they really can't touch me. But there's a us that I care about. An us. We call our country the U.S. It spells us. It spells us. To secure the blessings of liberty and prosperity for all people. Stated goals. Understood words. And it's, for me, especially frustrating to find myself so powerless over the world at this time. And of course, my wife told me today, she said, "You made me feel bad." I can't make you feel bad. You can't make me feel bad. Cannot force me to feel bad. I have to choose to feel bad. And I realize that I'm making choices to stew and grouse and grind and moan in actual pain over things that I have no control over. However, God, as the power of the universe, has all control over. Just got to wait for the ball to finish rolling and take care of myself and take care of each other in every way possible. The best thing I can do right now is be grateful to have a store to go to and be grateful. I'm especially grateful right now when people are coming in the door. Adding to my fears so far this year is that we've been doing great in the store, and in January and February and March we outperformed every month of the previous year. And in the second quarter, amidst this strife and uncertainty that has been foisted upon us by people without my best interest in mind, we have underperformed compared to the next 3 months of the year. The little girl that runs the international music store up in Tucson wrote recently and let me know that she's having trouble with sales because of decreased consumer confidence. We all rely on each other to make a living. I need you, you need me. I got something you need, I got something you want, you come and get it, I make it available, I take it home, I go to Ace, I go to we're all in this together. And those who decide that it's them against all the rest of us make a day hard sometimes. And yet, the unity principles are staring me in the face, and God is the source and creator of all. And I know that Emmett Fox wrote that when the devil, that which we call the devil, has been exposed in all his other guises, that he takes final refuge in the word but. I know that Lucy's created in the image and likeness of God just the way that I am, but she's this, she's that, she's the other thing. Anything defamatory and uncomplimentary that you take issue with in another person, I know they're created in the image and likeness of God just like me, but low life, liars, cheaters, rattlers. Why does my stomach hurt so bad? It's because I'm not sticking to it. I got to keep on the mission. The mission is now. That's the mission. To acknowledge that this thing that is so much bigger than this little 3-letter word. I think I've mentioned before my friend Joey Torelli out in Florida. He used to call God Leo. He said, I'm going to go talk to Leo. Who's Leo? Oh, you know. No, I don't know. Who's Leo? He says, God. You call him God. I call him Leo. What's in a name? It's in Shakespeare. It doesn't matter if I call a rose a Limburger cheese, it's still going to smell good like a rose. It's not going to stink like Limburger cheese just because I call it Limburger cheese. And if I call Limburger cheese rose cheese, it's still going to stink wrong compared to roses. So regardless of what I call this power with my mouth, it's the essence that feeds me. It's the essence that is nourishing. It's just I got a lot of baggage to unload, I think, because of what I learned in my life, that people who had authority over me and that I looked up to told me I needed to believe this. Sir, to be a Marine is to live forever. The Marine Corps is 248 years, I think, of walking, talking, hell, death, and destruction, the most belligerent fighting force the world has ever known. Loosed on the streets of Los Angeles on a couple of demonstrators, I'm insulted. I'm so irritated. But that's me looking at the news of the day and choosing to feel bad emotionally. Because you really can't go forward and murder something on somebody else's orders until somebody else has been transformed into that thing called other. We're going to make them other. I've found that most of the trouble I ever got in my life I brought on my own head. And certainly with these issues that I've been wrestling with, I'm choosing to bring it on my own head because I got my nose in the book. I got my nose in the news. I got my nose in the social media. And I'm making an active choice to be repulsed, repelled, antagonized, horrified, when all I really have to do is take a deep breath and give thanks. Shoot, I got not too much to complain about. I was born white in America. Could be worse. Could be worse. For some people it is worse. It's going to get worse. Maybe. On the other hand, each one of you and myself that shares with another human being the opportunity to understand that by buying in and participating in the chatter, I'm feeding it fuel and causing combustion within myself that I don't have to suffer. And I know that. But if I don't persevere, if I don't stick to it, if I don't keep trying to be a good truth student, a good student of truth doesn't gospel about people. A good student of truth doesn't engage in the acceptance of the negative. And if it was easy, everybody'd be doing it. But it's not easy. It's hard. It's really hard sometimes. Because, oh my God, even Christ on the cross said for 1 minute, Father, why have you forsaken me? God didn't forsake anybody. Just got the idea to cook up a thing called the human race and give it free will. I know some days it's got to be very pleasing, and other days he must say, oh, I don't know what I was thinking when I thought this up. I don't, it's just a very strange thing. And I know that a little while after I learned the 91st song, Kathy and I took the children and we left Florida, abandoned mosquitoes and alligators. If it didn't fit in the trailer, it didn't go. And we left Florida on the 6th of August in an unair-conditioned Chevrolet station wagon with 3 little kids a dog, a cat, a bird, and 2 fish. And all of us made it alive to Arizona. We went to see Kathy's sister in Wonder, Georgia, and we listened to the transmission. It sounded like it was bound to just fall out in the middle of the night in Alabama, and the car cooled off, and it worked just fine in the morning. One thing after another. And then in between, 60 miles east of Fort Stockton, Texas, leaving San Antonio, where we'd gone to look at the Alamo, the car just quit. And I couldn't figure out what it was. It wouldn't start. But I finally gave up on messing with the car and just stood on the side of the highway there, leaning on the car, and remembered the 91st and how it had been affecting our lives at the time. So I took it upon myself to get a little red rag and walk it back to the next mile marker back and put it out there for distress. I didn't have any flares or anything. And as I got to the little sign with the little red rag, the semi-truck topped the little rise coming down the road, and I made the telephone sign at him. And this truck just pulls over to the side of the road. Much to Kathy's consternation and concern, out of the cab climbed a little gnome. He was about this tall. He was barefoot. He had no shirt on, and his pelvic bone was holding his pants up. And he came swaggering back to us, and in not such good English, asked me what's happening. And I said, the car won't go. It quit. No, timing chain what? I don't know. He says, you turn the thing? Turn what thing? You know the thing with the wires. The distributor? Yeah, you know the thing with the wires. You turn it? I said, no. He says, you got one wrench? I said, yeah. I had a toolbox in the trailer. I got a distributor wrench out of there. He got under the hood. He listened to the little thing. He says, okay, you turn the key. And I start cranking it, and he moves the distributor back and forth like this, and the car started. Apparently the points had stuck together, and manipulating the distributor back and forth jogged him in. He said, okay, you go to Fort Stockton, you have them check the time machine. Kathy and I got to Fort Stockton, we were wanting to go to Carlsbad and look at the Carlsbad cameras with the kids on the way back. So I said to her, if we stop the car in Fort Stockton to get gas and it starts, we're going to Carlsbad. And that's what happened. Got gas and the car started, and it ran like a top all the way up to Carlsbad. When we got to Carlsbad, it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. We went to a Denny's. We stopped at a couple of motels, and we couldn't find lodging. It's kind of a Christ-like thing, unable to find lodging. But we had three kids and a dog and a cat and a bird and 2 fish. So we go eat at this Denny's. And we're sitting there, and a nice little waitress comes up, and she was a chatterbox. Where are you from? Blah, blah, blah. We're looking for a motel. Oh, my mother runs a motel down the road, around the corner. They got a dog run. They'll take the cat. They got a place outside where you can put the bird to get sunshine in the daytime. I said, it's almost 3 a.m. She said, she runs a motel. Call her. So we called and said, come on over. In the morning, I wanted to have my car checked out. At the main intersection from where this motel was located, there was a mechanic on every corner. Okay, I was working in the automotive upholstery trade back then. So I called the local upholstery shop and said, if you needed your car worked on, where would you go? The guy on the phone says, well, I'm not really sure, but I'll tell you, there's a mechanic way out of town, and my daughter needed to have her brakes fixed a while back, So she went out to see them, and when they told her to pull it into the bay, the brakes failed, and she drove through the wall. And they fixed her brakes, and they didn't charge her for the wall. I think I'll go see them. So I went to see them. There was 2 buildings there, the big shop and the little office shop. I pulled up to the office shop and left the car running because I was scared to turn it off. And the guy says, "Oh, you're going to call about the timing chain?" Which, if you know about cars, if the timing chain's broke, your car's not going to run at all. It's not going to start. It's not going to drive anywhere. So he said, he pulled it over, and I pulled it over into the other bay, and he comes in there, and he told me straight up. He said, "If your timing chain was broke, your car would. So let's get in here." So they got in there. The transmission had been overheating. I'd bought a case of transmission fluid. They changed my transmission fluid and filter. They set my points. They adjusted my carburetor. Got my car running tip top. They charged me $56 and change. And the other old fellow that was a partner in the shop had come in while they were doing that. And he stood there like this for a minute, and he looked over at me and he said, "You know, there's a lot of guys in town there would have gladly taken $250 off you to fix your timing chain." And I was divinely guided. All I was doing was saying this little song to myself. There's 3 people talking in the song. There's the storyteller that starts out talking about whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High. And then I come in and say, "I will say of the Lord." And then he says, "Surely he will save you, and God's going to do this, and God's going to do that." And when we get down toward the end of it, at 14, because because they love me, says the Lord. Now that's God talking in the construction of this song. It's a magical thing. Between this and the 23rd Psalm, I never read any Psalms because I feel like I'm armed really well with just these 2. But there's a lot more, and there's such wonderful things in Proverbs. It is a book that can enrich us and teach us and show us the way. You know that the King James Version has taken a lot of heat lately. Fox advised using the King James Version. A newer version can get rid of some of those "thee, thous," and "we beseech you." What language is he talking? But it's not so much a documentation. It's not a work of fiction, but on the other hand, it's not necessarily a documentary, fact-filled thing. What it is a handbook for every man to read a story and identify with the character. How would I be if I acted like Saul? How would I be if I'm David instead? What do I do in my life that makes me more like the Pharisees and less like Christ? It seems like the good lessons are the easiest to forget. So I got to stick to it. I got to persevere. If I don't, the alternatives are gruesome. Just like democracy, the world I'm living in appears to be the worst it's ever been, except compared to everything else. I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be living in Arizona. I'm blessed to have access to some people that, if I'm really blue, share the same ideas and principles that I do. And the ideas and principles that I share about my spiritual life are stuff I learned in Unity in the first place. When I first went to Unity, it made it plain that I was not in a Methodist or a Baptist or a Presbyterian environment. I certainly wasn't in a Catholic church. Nobody was telling me that I was bound to go to hell and that I was a low sinner from birth. They got pictures of me when I was a baby. I looked like a happy kid. I hadn't had a chance to sit against anybody yet. So all the various dogmas and theocracies had driven me far, far away, and I was in a desert of the Spirit when I first came in. And it's obvious to me that it's still at work because faith, it does not make things easy. It makes them possible. It's staring at me off the wall, and I stand up here and it's back there. And the subject matter that you all chose without talking to me at all is all right in my face, is exactly what I needed to hear this morning. That's why I said, have you been peeking in my windows? It's overwhelming sometimes to live in the world. And it is just awe-inspiring how quickly we're able to turn it around and have a sense of inner peace. The times that I feel calm and collected and peaceful amongst strife was not something that was gifted. There's been strife in my home life since I was a little bitty kid. Like I said, I had a World War II veteran father. Father was an interesting thing. Father lost 3 mothers in his life. His first mother left the day after he was born and took his 2 sisters and never heard from him again. His father took him and put him in a foster home in Missouri, where he lived until he was 9 with a woman that he loved as his mother, and a Methodist preacher that apparently used to bounce his head off the ceiling as discipline. And then that relationship fell apart, so when he was 9, they put him on a train in Lawrence, Kansas, and sent him to Arizona to meet his father for the first time. And they lived, just him and the old man, in hotels in Globe, in Douglas, in El Paso. During the Depression, they ranged from El Paso up to Monterey and back. Grandpa was a linotype setter. When my dad was in the 9th grade, he aggravated a drunken German in Douglas that was going to kill him. And my old grandfather came out and hit the German in his head and knocked him down the stairs and broke his hand. And then he got up and came back up the stairs for some more because, historically, Germans are notoriously hard-headed. So he broke his other hand, but he stopped the attack. But then my father got to quit school and go to work and work to support his dad, work to support him. And now the Depression was upon them. And he made it through all that stuff. He was at Hickman Field for the attack on Hawaii, Pearl Harbor, and Hickman Field and Schofield Barracks. He served briefly in the Philippines before he got sent back to the States, and then he went on over to Africa, to Sicily, to Sardinia, home long enough to meet my mother, back to the Army, inserted back into Europe after D-Day, was with Patton's 3rd Army when they marched on Bastogne. All this stuff, we spent this whole last decade talking about the greatest generation. And then we started talking about what nobody used to talk about. I talked about PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. In 1969, I had broken my ankle. The doctor at the Air Force Hospital was supposed to do a stress test and twist the good ankle underneath the x-ray machine so they could see in the joint and then gently manipulate the broken ankle to compare it. And he got his military right and his civilian right mixed up, and he came in and grabbed the wrong foot and gave it a vicious twist. I folded up like this and ended up spending a week in the hospital waiting for the swelling to go down enough to put the cast on. And then he wanted to make sure it was immobilized, and I had a thigh-high cast and I'm on crutches. My grandmother, my maternal grandmother, Susie John Joker, my mother's mother, was in the hospital, dying of a brain tumor, The doctors had told them for months that she was suffering anxiety in the wake of the death of her husband. And they didn't even find the brain tumor until it was, certainly at that time, more than they could do anything about. They did a surgery, and that was the end of my grandmother. She didn't die, but she didn't come back either. And my mom had a serious bone to pick with the maker. She wanted Jesus and God to both give her some answers about how come you could do me this way. I've been a faithful child of yours. How could this happen to my mother? And it stuck with her. She didn't go back to church until she started coming to Unity with us when we came out from Arizona. But anyway, in 1969, she passed away. And so that was the third mother that had left my father. He had plenty of excuses for drinking before that. It just never got better. And they would, my mother didn't take anything laying down. She didn't go into fits of impotent tears. If they were having an argument, if she confronted him and he struck her, she hit him back. Came home from Boy Scout camp one year, and he was drunk and telling everybody that he wasn't. She went over behind the drapes in the family room and pulled him back, and there's an empty square Dansky and Dant vodka bottle in there. She goes over to him and says, "What is this?" She hit him over the head with it, and it broke. He had a crew cut, salt and pepper crew cut, and there's these little splinters of glass sticking out up underneath it. He said, "Well, it's about the sorriest thing you ever did in your life." I took the bottle away from her, but the confrontation was over. But there was a lot of that. And it wasn't until I got in trouble enough myself to get some schooling, some required schooling. And that put me in talking to a counselor one fine day who asked me what I was doing about church. And I said, nothing. And he said, well, what about unity? I never heard of it. He said, what, Unitarian? He said, oh no, unity, it's different. You don't even have to dress up. And he gave me a Unity magazine with the Daily Word. And I went home and talked to Kathy about it. We drove out there the next Sunday. And in that, I began to get some idea of the possibility of salvation and began the study of what it is that I do that allows this division between me and God to get in me. I'm the one that opens in. And apparently the door to strife and difficulty opens out, but the door to Spirit of God opens in. So I got to push on that door if I want to go through it. I got to stick to it. I got to put on the armor of God every day and go back. Don't give up. Stick to it. I got a song for you this morning. It's a prayer, and it's secular. But I've been looking for the truth of the divine in secular music all my life. So it's just an expression of something that comes from farther back than the first recording of it. But it's about how, with this armor on, I want to express myself in the world as a human being and as an American. And I hope you like it. All we've been given by the ones who came before. The dream of a nation where freedom would endure. hopes and prayers of centuries have brought us to this day. What will be our legacy? What will our children say? Let them say of me, I was one who believed in sharing the blessings that I received. Let me know in my heart when my days are through. America, America, I gave my best to you. Each generation, from the plains to distant shores, with the gifts that they were given, were determined to leave more. Valiant battles fought together, acts of conscience fought alone. These are the seeds from which America has grown. Let them say of me, I was one who believed in sharing the blessing that I received. Let me know in my heart when my days are through. America, America, I gave my best to you. Those who think they have nothing to share, who fear in their hearts there is no hero there. Know each quiet act of dignity is that which fortifies the soul of a nation where freedom never dies. Let them say of me, I was one who believed in sharing the blessings that I received. Oh, let me know in my heart when my days are through. America, America, I gave my best to you. Oh, America, America, I gave my best to you. Amen.